President, thank you. Amidst all our talk, quite rightly, about the single market, the customs union, it is, I think, a point worth making, colleagues, that Scotland voted to remain within our European Union. That is our starting point, and that is our domestic issue, but we will be in touch. Don't forget about Scotland. But in this debate, I'd address my remarks to people outside of this chamber. The people in England, the people in the United Kingdom, I say as a friend of both, who voted leave. I get it. Your anger is justified. Your anger is real. But I assure you, your fight is not with the European Union. You were told, you believed the promises. You were told by serious people like David Davis that there was no downside and a considerable upside to voting leave. Well, I tell you, dear friends, this is what the future looks like. And it's pretty bloody bleak. A diminished UK, a diminished Europe, a poorer citizenry, a poorer society, a poorer economy. Nobody voted to make themselves poorer. There are no unicorns, there are no windmills for every voter, there is no £350 million for the NHS. They lied to you. You were right. You were right, you were genuine to take those promises at face value. But as we get to the end point of this process, we see what the reality is. There is no shame in changing your mind. There is still time to change course. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woolfe, 1 minute. Thank you. 1 minute, Mr. Flack.
Thank you. Let us negotiate as equals. Do not try and bully us. We are not Norway or Canada. We've almost double the population of Canada and 10 times that of Norway. We are a true world power. We offer Europe friendship and cooperation. But be of no doubt, there will be an independent, free, prosperous British lion off your shores. You will not chain us. Do not be fooled by political has-beens coming from the UK like Blair and Clegg, desperate for publicity, acting as some sort of third column trying to stop Brexit, or worse still, agree a deal that will leave the UK so weak we come back cap in hand in decades to come. Be of no doubt, that will not happen. We are offering you tens of billions of pounds in aid to plug the holes in your budget, just as my father and grandfather endured rationing in order that food could be sent to a starving mainland. We are your friends, your powerful friends, but do not push us too far. Thank you.
Mr. Flack, I think you pushed Mr. Smith a little too far. He wants to ask a question. Will you accept? Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, President, and indeed thank you, Mr. Flack, for giving way and taking the blue card. And may I congratulate you for being the very first United Kingdom Conservative to actually contribute to this debate today. Does it not strike you as strange that all your colleagues who are acting as the midwife to the Brexit vote, we've heard plenty from the Brexiteers, the charlatans, the shysters, the useful idiots today, but you're the first United Kingdom Conservative, the government of the United Kingdom, to actually speak today. Do you not think you could have said something more than warm words, flannel and nonsense?
That you consider the offer of friendship and cooperation bad words. That's what the British Conservatives and the British people are offering. And the British Conservatives sit here as part of a very large and powerful ECR group. We are a diverse group with diverse views. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. I can see you. There's no need to wave your arms like you're swimming. I can see you. I think we need to reflect on this moment. There's an internal UK issue, so I will allow you a point of order if it is a point of order, but I will be strict if it's not. You have been warned. Thank you.
Madam Chair, most people in the Chair are not as observant as you, so may I congratulate you for that. Can I ask Mr. Smith to please withdraw his remarks on Brexiteers? They are unparliamentary and demean this Parliament.
Just briefly, colleagues, please allow me. Mr. Woolfe, are you also looking to?
It's on.
Excuse me, your microphone wasn't on, Mr. Woolfe. Go again, please.
Under the order of parliamentary language, I would ask Mr Smith to withdraw the use of the word shyster. As someone of Jewish heritage, he should fully aware and understand the power of that term and how demeaning it actually is.
On that, Mr Woolfe, please.
Thank you, Mr President. I rise in relation to the rules related to the conduct of members of this House towards one another. This morning, in the debate on the relationships between the European Union and the UK, a member of this House, Mr ALYN Smith from Scotland, quite rightly used some language to criticise Brexiteers like myself. But he used one particular word in that criticism which I feel that you, as the President of this Chamber, would actually recognise as being highly disgraceful and would warrant an apology. He called Brexiteers shysters. As you know, the word shyster is derived from the German word someone who defecates. But it also is a very poignant word for those of us who have Jewish ascendants or Jewish relations in our family, as I do. Shyster is used to criticise Jews on a regular basis for being dishonest and various other aspects. I believe that Mr Smith may not have wanted to use that phrase in that context, but now recognising the strength of that, should would apologise, and I would ask you to seek that from himself. Thank you.
Onorevole Smith, voleva dire qualcosa?
Mr Smith, would you like to say something?
I certainly would, President, and I'd refer colleagues who might not be familiar with the English word to the definition of shyster in the Collins English Dictionary. Shyster, plural, shysters. If you refer to someone, especially a lawyer or a politician, as a shyster, you mean that they are dishonest and immoral. A person, especially a lawyer or a politician, who uses discreditable or unethical manners. There is nothing about Jewish anything in there, and nothing could have been further from my mind. Indeed, the allegation is as ridiculous as Mr Woolfe is himself. I refute it absolutely, and I would urge the House not to waste time on such nonsense.
No, disonesta e immorale non si...
Dishonest, immoral, I mean, you can't really say that to anyone. Dishonest and immoral. But if you had no intention, as stated by Mr Woolfe, I think that is a sufficient explanation. But dishonest and immoral, those are not terms that can be said of colleagues. Mr Dartmouth, please.
Onorevole Dartmouth.
Thank you, Mr President, for taking the point of order. I rise under Rule 11, Section 3. I rise under Rule 11, Section 3, and to quote the rules of procedure, the conduct of members shall be characterised by mutual respect. And whatever Mr Smith's inadequate comments just now, the fact of the matter is that he violated the values and principles of the European Parliament, of which we had an outstanding example from Mrs Fox's comments earlier on. Notwithstanding, the request is that the President delivers to Mr Smith a formal reprimand.
Very briefly, Mr President, I don't normally get upset by anything, but Mr Smith is the master of the politically correct. He'd hound anyone to the gates of hell if they said anything politically incorrect. So I don't normally worry about these things, but in this occasion, I think he's gone over the top, and I think he should apologise. Normally he's not so silly, so I think he's not doing himself any good, or his political party.
Bene, adesso credo...
Okay. Mr Coburn, I mean, we know you're pretty lively. We know that, we've seen that. I think that at the end of the day, the intention behind that term was political criticism. I don't think he intended to be offensive to a colleague. We've heard the definition. It was a political criticism. I don't think he was trying to offend anyone for racial reasons or for political reasons. So I think the word should be interpreted as a political criticism. If it were otherwise, we would be obliged to intervene. But I think that it was a political criticism, nothing more.
Madam Deputy Speaker, fear, dread, alarm, panic, terror, pain, that is all that you hear from those on that side of the House will occur to Britain once we leave the European Union. Not the positive message that we have campaigned for, one where Britain will be independent, looking outwardly to the rest of the world and still being friends with the European Union. And this paper that you present today is one more attempt at fear. But this fear is to try shackle Britain, undermine us. And the reality is, it's the European Union's fear of Britain. Fear of Britain succeeding. Fear of Britain leaving this club and doing well. But I will tell you, Britain has never feared looking forward to the future. We weren't in fear when we came to your aid from the times of Nazism to communism. We weren't fearful when we had to tackle our own economic problems. And we will not live in fear leaving outside of the European Union. We will embrace it and look forward to a bright future. So I think you ought to learn that lesson now.